Welcome to Season 6 of the Stories in the Cemetery podcast. This season, we're shaking things up a bit with deeper questions into the paranormal. And to do that, your host, Nicholas McGurr, has invited the owner of Amen Paranormal Research, Joshua Amen, to be his co-host. To learn more about their studies and articles, visit storiesinthecemetery.com, or you can check out the Paranormal Investigation Workbook or the Paranormal Investigator's Almanac, both available on Amazon. Stories in the Cemetery takes you ghost hunting in Charleston, South Carolina, and reveals his findings from those investigations here on the Stories in the Cemetery podcast. Let's get into today's episode with Nick and Josh.
Is it on your bucket list to go ghost hunting with real paranormal equipment like you see on your favorite paranormal TV shows? You're in luck. Your host of the Stories in the Cemetery podcast also runs an interactive ghost hunting experience in Charleston, South Carolina. You use all the equipment, spirit boxes, EMF meters, paranormal cameras, and more, all while running different paranormal experiments at each location. This includes live EVP sessions, the Estes method, and well, you'll just have to come experience this one-of-a-kind event for yourself. Nightly investigations available to small groups of 10 all year long. So head over to storiesinthecemetery.com to book your investigation.
Welcome, everybody, to Season 6, Episode 58.
We're just kidding. We're excited. This is going to be some cool shit. Josh is trying not to laugh, everybody. No more ocean waves. Those are gone. All right. So, Josh, it is now, well, for us, we're in the past. But this episode is coming. I know. It's coming out in April, which means I am in my very, very busy time of ghost hunting tours. Dun, dun, dun. I got to find that. Nope. I'm going to do sound effects. The reason why I won't do sound effects, I think you know where I'm going with this. I have a nemesis that uses too many sound effects, and he can never, ever find them. I'm not going to say the arch nemesis name. We won't do it. So, no olive branches will be outstretched during these episodes. So, Josh, what the hell are we talking about this week? What do we got?
So we're doing SLS cameras.
What the hell is that? That sounds fascinating.
Right, and specifically, we're going to do it through the GhostTube app.
Yes.
My brain is not working, man. It's what a structured light sensors. SLS.
Yes.
Okay.
Structured light sensors. That sounds very nerdy, and that's what we do on this show. Nerdy shit.
It's pretty much what it is.
It's exactly what it is. So let's talk about it. I actually have a shit ton of experience with this thing. We're gonna do some debunking talk. We're gonna talk about like how it operates. And a lot of you folks, you have this damn thing on your phone already because you thought you were gonna be cool like the ghost hunters on the TV shows. And we're gonna talk to you about your version of it, whichever type of phone that you're using, and why you should be using it on specific types of phones only, or types of tablets, and how this thing actually works. So, Josh, I'm going to break right into this. I know, like, during this recording, you're still coughing a lot, and I'm going to try to save some of your voice. So, the structured light sensor camera. Let's talk about what the original SLS cameras look like on, we'll just say where they kind of came from. So, for some of our, I don't know, we're going to call them Gen Xers, would probably remember. Well, I'd say even some of the
Gen Millennial.
Is it called Gen X then Millennial? Is that what it is?
It's Gen X, Millennial, then it's Gen Z, Alpha, and then my kid will be a Gen Beta.
Yeah, that's too much shit for me to remember. I'm a Gen X. I'm proud of it. I'm okay with it.
And I'm a Millennial.
So Gen X and Millennials. Well, you fall in Millennial? Yeah, I guess you do. Oh shit! Wow, dude, I feel bad.
Yeah, it's like 89 to 96.
Wow. Yeah. I gotta tell my wife that you're a millennial. She's gonna be happy I'm hanging out with the cool kids. Um, so I guess Gen X and millennials will remember the old Xbox 360 cameras, the Kinect cameras. So the Kinect camera, if you don't know what the original, piece was actually supposed to be used for, it was pretty badass and pretty innovative for its time. Sorry, I couldn't find the word there. But with this camera, it actually sprays infrared all over your living room, and it reads your face, it reads your body, and it would actually create an avatar for specific games that were Kinect sensitive, I guess is the right term, or capable. And I used to use this game all the time for Texas Hold'em. So it was actually pretty cool. I had an avatar that looked just like me, pre-beard, so I didn't have the box on the face, and it was actually pretty damn close. Like it was pretty cool shit. I was pretty, I played a lot of Kinect games actually. I believe some of the games that we played used it for full body, and I want to say it was Just Dance. Started off
Yeah.
with that. So, I mean, me playing games with my kids. I mean, my girls were pretty young when I had a 360, and we played Just Dance together. I'm trying to think of some of the other games that it used. I think we had Kinect Adventures, where you got to like go through the jungle and stuff on like wooden surfboards and kind of shit. It was a fun type of game, almost as kind of like a VR accessory is to our kids today.
Right. Yeah,
So
it was the whole get active, get moving, like
yeah,
movement of video games.
right. And I think there was even there was a fitness. It wasn't a game per se, but it was more like the old Jane Fonda workout come to, the Pixel era, So I think it was called like Yourself Fitness or something along those lines. And it actually used full body motion as well. So if you sucked at, doing sit-ups, it would tell you like, yeah, it was pretty cool. But anyway, so that's what the 360 was originally intended for. But when ghost hunters started realizing that there's a pre-program behind the Kinect and how it actually operates, that's actually where it all stemmed from. And that's basically the gist of it. There is a program, which is the screen you guys see on your paranormal TV shows, where it creates the stick man, quote unquote, and it picks up on the outline of everything in the room. So it's not really a person sitting on the chair, it's just the chair. Um, yeah, exactly. So, and in essence,
Tree or door frame.
yeah, a doorknob. I'm just looking at the things in this office right now. The glass on the counter. I mean, it will literally, if it's in front of something else, it puts the dots to on the edges of the 3D object, and then draws lines in between them. And that's originally the way it was intended to be, so it knew how big your living room was and so forth and so on. So when we see like I guess the backdoor program of this, it's fascinating because what if nobody is standing in front of the door and all of a sudden there is, as far as a stick man, it's seeing things that we allegedly can't. Great concept. However, too many false positives.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to the fact that this thing is a depth perception camera and kind of give the example that I give on the interactive ghost hunting experience, because we do use the GhostTube app because it's more portable. It works the exact same way as long as you're using certain types of hardware, which we're going to get to in a minute. But the depth perception of it, when I do the example of what to look for, is the 3 points for a head of a figure. And the reason for that is because we have two eyes and a nose. That's your eyes are behind your face, your nose is in front. So therefore, you should always have 3 points on any figure that is allegedly standing, sitting, doing something specific in your room or your haunted space. So,
Correct.
Josh, I don't want to say pass the baton, but let's talk about the hardware that you need for using the GhostTube app, which is, I'm not going to say it's a dummied down version of using the 360 Kinect, because they are identical, but they're only identical with certain pieces of hardware. So,
Mhm.
which pieces of hardware should anybody using this app be using?
So, unfortunately, Apple products
I
are
agree.
really good for this.
Unfortunately.
So, even though my Android phone does just as well, in my opinion, because it actually, I've had it do both the false positive stick man without a head, which is what you normally would see, and I've had it track something where it gives the 3 points for face. So,
Okay.
you know, but unfortunately, Apple products are much more accurate. They have the LiDAR system, which is exactly the same thing as what the Kinect was doing, spraying the dots. And for most people that don't know this, um, I actually did this for my friend during an investigation, and I filmed him as he opened his phone to show him all of the flashes of IR that his
Mm,
phone was taking because your phone takes pictures of you. Your Apple product phones um, have, they take pictures of you because you open your phone with your face half the time.
right.
And so your phone is constantly taking pictures of you, and people don't know this. And that there's already been a lawsuit with Apple with that. So that's all old news. Um, but it's part of their LiDAR system that allows for the SLS tube to actually work well and accurately.
So, and I'll be honest, the phone I'm using right now also uses face detection. It also uses the biometrics of my thumbprint. But before it'll even bring me the thumbprint to press, it'll use the biometrics of my face. So, same type of principle. It'll say no face detected in the event that I just tap it and it's facing the ceiling. So,
Right.
Apple isn't the only one that is using that type of technology. But the GhostTube app, and most people would know GhostTube from, I think it's called the original GhostTube, and then there's GhostTube Vox. Like that, I think they have four different applications for
Right.
obviously the different products. And I'm gonna, I guess, correct and refine your answer of using Apple products only. It is Apple products after 2020. So the easiest way to determine if you have one of these products is that if you look at the camera, most Apple products, older Apple products, are only going to have three camera points on the back of the phone. But if you have like the perfect square and that darkened lens in front of it, then you have the fourth camera, which essentially uses the LiDAR technology. So again, after 2020 is when that was actually available on most Apple upgraded products. So on the interactive tour, we use an actual iPad, and it went against every grain in my body to buy an Apple product. So for those of you that are, pro Apple, I'm sorry, I hate their products. I'm not a fan. I like to customize. We won't get into that argument on this episode. But
Ditto.
I did buy one from eBay because I was like, if I am going to buy an Apple product, I am going to literally get the cheapest one from the first year ever that it was available. Not to mention, I didn't know how this was going to go on the ghost hunting tours. Everybody was asking me for it. However, the SLS cameras you see on the TV shows, they weigh over 20 pounds.
Yeah.
There's wires, there's a camera bar, there's the Kinect, there's the tablet, and all of the strapping and all of the extra things. So my wife did purchase one for me 1 year, and the programmer did not put it together properly. And I am not a programmer. So this thing was not working at all. And it was 24 pounds. We returned it. And then I just put it aside. Like, I will never have one of these. And then GhostTube came up with the SLS app itself. And again, most of us, if you're listening to this, podcast, you probably have this on your phone already. Just check your phone. So with your phone, the only thing I'm going to recommend is that you turn the sensitivity down to less than, we'll just say 40 to 35%. Otherwise, it will literally pick up on every single detail of your space, giving you all those false positives. So with this, and I only bring it out on the tours if I have 10 people. That's my max. Well, we'll just say 9 people because we have the EMF mic that I bring out with my 10th person. But if we have 9 people, is when I bring that camera with me as well, because we use it for debunking purposes mainly.
Hmm.
We're completely outdoors. We're not inside any buildings. We're not inside of a room. And Josh, just list any piece of nature that this thing could possibly pick up on.
Yeah, it could turn a tree into a person. It can turn I've seen it turn a door frame into a person. I've seen it turn my shadow into a person.
Aha, there we go. That's what I was waiting for. So let's
Yeah.
stop there. Why do you think it will put a stick man on your shadow?
It's motion. It's a different color than the surroundings. Like it's
Nope.
able to track those points of movement.
You're wrong on all accounts.
Well, hell.
Yep, look at that. I'm going to teach you something, man. I thought you had all this camera stuff down. It will put the stick man over top of your shadow because it is an absence of light.
Oh.
Yeah, look at me knowing stuff. So, can't tell you how many times, because I normally, the way we have our tablet set up is it has like those kid bumpers on it because it does get dropped a lot. So it has handles on both the sides and one on the top, like one of those like little kid, just bumper type of tablet covers. And can't tell you how many times I get a kid, 12 years old and younger, that says, "Hey, there's a ghost laying on the ground." I'm like, "Dude, that's your shadow." And that's just, yeah.
He's taking a nap.
Right. He's just chilling. He's like, he's doing everything I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, okay. And my name's Peter Pan. So, with that, the other piece that I usually tell people to worry about are trees. The problem with trees is trees have leaves, and all leaves are in front of another leaf. So therefore, the GhostTube app is pre-programmed to make everything look like a stick figure, like a person. So heads and shoulders, head, shoulders, and arms, so forth and so on. You're getting the point. And everyone always says, because we're in Charleston, were pirates hung here? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you got? Well, there's somebody hanging in the tree and they look like they're struggling. I'm like, that's all the leaves that it's bouncing around. Exactly. Like, like it gets like seriously. So
is that you, Blackbeard?
I know, right? And we're over at like a place that's pretty recent. Like, you know, the person that died there that haunts the place is from 2012. I'm like, it's not Black. But there's a lot of factors that go into this app, and I even reached out to GhostTube before I bought the tablet, before I wanted to learn about the app and how it worked, because I wanted them to tell me, and it is designed, unlike the Kinect camera, to make everything look like a stick man. So if you look at a Kinect SLS camera designed that way, extra parts and wiring and whatnot, sometimes you're just going to get the outline of the door. It's not going to make the door look like a person. So it's going to work in that fashion. But the GhostTube app is designed to make everything like in the shape of a person, whether it's just the torso and up, so forth and so on. So that's kind of an issue for me, especially being outdoors. And I guess another debunking process of this is I'm in a city where I'm walking around where there are buildings. And it's going to pick up on the outline of the buildings because a building's in front of another building. And then somebody says, "Look at that ghost. He's super tall." I'm like, the ghost is not going to be 40 stories tall. Like, that's kind of how this works. It's picking up on the
Marshmallow Man.
I know, right? Get your proton packs. We're ready. We got this. So that's a lot of the debunking parts of this. So I mean, I have some experience with some of the things that we've caught. And I do want to talk about that after the break. But as far as, really looking at this camera and being able to go through it, have you ever like gone through and reviewed it? Do you have a process? Because I know I do.
So it's interesting because like I know you were just talking about like try to push the sensitivity down to like 30% or whatever.
Right.
I literally will take the sensitivity all the way to the bottom. Like I put it at the very bottom, where there's little to no sensitivity on it left. So it's having trouble putting a person or stick figure up.
Okay.
And that's part of how I use it, so that I know that like my false positives are few and far between. And like I got a figure sitting on the floor at Vulture City when I went to Vulture City. And it was there for a split second and then it was gone. But it tracked an entire body and a face.
Okay.
So like it tracked the points for the eyes and the nose, the whole thing. And I was like, wow, like that's, and I feel like that's a really cool way to do it, in my mind. But one of the things I was thinking about as you're talking is if it's reading absence of light, what happens when you're in a pitch black setting?
It has a really, really hard time. We have one location that doesn't like pick up on the street lights around us. And it's a pretty open space, and it really, really struggles because of the amount of darkness that's there. And because it's a wide open lot, if we do get something, I it's a rarity that we get anything at this location with this camera. I'm just going to put it out there like that. Even at the 35 to 40% sensitivity, just because of what it is. So I usually tell that person to try to keep a person in focus, like an actual other team member that night. So that way we kind of have a point of reference for height, for moving and speed, and those type things. But only at that one location. Everywhere else, I tell them, because everything else has like pretty good street lighting, to
Mhm.
you know keep the live people out of it. But in the darkness, I usually tell them, because it'll pick up on the person in the darkness.
Because we're lighter than the dark.
Correct. And we have something to bounce off of. So those infrared lights that are coming out as dots, which can be seen with an infrared camera. So for those of you that are in, your equipment and you don't realize that they can work together, you could see the dots through the infrared camera or a full spectrum camera. Wherever the dot, if it has a shorter distance to land on, is where it starts to put those points of reference. So that's why the spray of dots looks pretty random. They're not in a perfect grid. Like they do look like they're all over the place and in no random fashion, as far as a pattern goes, because they want to be able to pick up on all of the different aspects of any type of entity that could be walking by, living or unliving. So that's why it's set up the way that it is.
Yeah, and I mean, if you were to put this on a tripod side by side with a camera, you technically have an IR laser grid.
You would. If you
So
well, and then you could put your cloud of smoke through it
there you go.
and light it up.
That'd be interesting to see. I feel like the smoke would fuck with an SLS. Like I really think that would not work together.
I think because
smoke would move around.
but it's also in reference to the same thing of like the darkness. I think because it's such a large entity, the darkness being one large entity and the smoke being one large entity, that I think it would say, okay, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
Like that's the
Now,
end of the room.
the concept of, like we hear this time and time again, and I've experienced this, I'm sure you have too, where you see something moving that's darker than the dark. Would the SLS pick up on that?
So I have some pieces that my like possibility pile, because I can't make it out because it can get too dark even when you brighten it up with certain filters.
Right.
Where I have had that happen. And again, I do count it as like half of the value of what I would give something where I would put my stamp of approval on it, because it's a possibility. In my SITC scoring system is what I'm speaking of. So if I do capture those, which is a rare, if anybody that knows has taken my tour and they get the report back, most videos say no anomalies discovered in this video. And again, because they are such rare occurrences, that for me to put even half of the value of the point system on there, it's got to have some kind of merit, and it's got to have been able to have done something to give it that merit. It can't just be a quick flash of, that stick figure and it didn't do anything. It didn't budge. It didn't move. It doesn't have 3 points. You know what I mean? It's got to have some kind of merit to it, like emotion, like that we asked for. Can you
Right.
wave at us? Can you turn your head? So we can get the full gambit of the size of you. Those kind of things. And that's the merit that I look for. But if we have something where I can't identify like what it may have been picking up on, and it's just way too dark, and I know the space well enough to where that headstone wasn't there, or there's not a bush over there. You know what I mean? Like I know these spaces very well. And I think that's another benefit of visiting them so often as much as I do, same way with you and Suicide Bridge. It's the same type of principle. You got to know that space pretty well.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you know what's in the area, so you know what doesn't belong.
Correct. So before we take a break, I like to talk, because I want to talk about like the evidence pieces that I've caught with this thing, that were not just possibilities, that were definitely interactive, with me and the team that I had that night. I like to talk about the way I review the video, because we don't record literally the tour from start to finish, because it's a 2.5 hour excursion. Walking in between spaces, like that's ridiculous. Nobody likes the Blair Witch Project, and we don't want to recreate that over again. But when we get about 45 minutes to an hour record time from this particular camera when we're using it, and I do watch it in double time, and I know some people um, would disagree with that. And I only watch 2 minutes at a time, which makes it 1 minute real time. So if I see something in there and I'm kind of like, oh, what was that? I can go back and watch it in quarter time and frame by frame it. And when I find the entity again, I will take a screenshot and then I will brighten it up so I can see if what's behind it a little bit more clear, and see if the points of reference from the stick man actually fell on a tree, a sign, an actual human that was in the darkness, to, you know what I mean, that we couldn't see in the regular shot of it. Um, it's rare occurrences that I find something with this camera. So we probably bring it out, we'll just say 50 times throughout the year, and I might find 1 to 5 pieces per year out of that I'm like either possibility or a stamp of approval. So, take these things with reference, and that's with the sensitivity that I'm on. And, respect to you taking it all the way down to zeros to 5%, I'm guessing. But for the muggles, I want them to see, and I say muggles as guests from my tours, I want them to see like how I use this to debunk certain things. Not everything is going to be a ghost, like what they're seeing on TV, or on TikTok or social media. That's not what I'm out there doing. I'm showing these people how these things work. I'm explaining it, obviously not to this, tune of detail, but I've said a lot of the phrases on this episode that I give to them, so that way they fully understand how to use it. And if it's a kid that's using it, we'll just say under 14, um, it's a quick explanation, but my first thing is 3 points for the head. And if you see somebody next to me that's not supposed to be there, ask them to do something. Wave your right hand, lift your left leg,
Slap Nick.
slap Nick. So again, you laugh, but this shit has happened. Like we've asked for it and we've gotten it before using this camera. But that's my debunking process, or my review process of going through the video. Again, it is spot checking, because I don't do all of the work for my guests. I just do enough to let them know like what I've seen and give them the opportunity to find things for themselves. And that's basically how I go through it. I watch it in double time, bring over a 45-minute time period. I mean, I'm covering, I don't know, probably a good, we'll just say 20 minutes of it. But I'm watching it in double time. So it only takes me 10 minutes to do, unless, of course, I find something anomalous. And then I review the hell out of it, like by putting filters on there and doing all of the things that I want to see what's going on there. But that's the way I review it. And I know some people will disagree, but that's what works for me, because like I said, I use it about 50 times a year. So could take that at face value.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I like having the SLS. I think it's a really cool piece of tech. I wish I got more with it, but I also don't want to get random crap with it. Like, I don't want to be that guy you see on YouTube that's like, oh my God, there's the person there, and he's waving at his fucking shadow. So
Right. Well, I've gotten pictures before, and if the person's listening, my apologies, but this is a great example. They sent me a quick clip, we'll just say 10 seconds, of what they thought a person sitting in a chair, and all it was the outline of the chair.
Yeah.
And that's just plain and simple. I mean, that's an easy one to debunk almost every single time. Just take it for what it's worth. So
Yeah. 'Cause
on that,
most sure will just give you an outline.
yeah, and that's, I mean, again, it's in front of something else. It's in front of the table. It's in front of the wall. It's
Mhm.
in front of something. So it's going to put the outline on the chair. And oh, and just another debunking, just a little fun fact. Take your SLS camera, Josh. Next time you're watching TV, point it at your TV.
Yeah, it'll track all the people on the TV.
Exactly. Sure will. Don't know how
Didn't know
that
that.
works. I don't have that science down, but I know the shadow piece.
Well,
But it,
looks like I have some research to do.
yes, you do, sir. And on that note, let's take a quick sponsor break. We'll be right back.
Hey, bearded ghost hunters! Are you taking care of your beard with all natural products? The Magnanimous Beard Superstore has everything you need from beard oils, shampoos, beard butter, beard balm, and so much more. You can have any of their products scented with one of their amazing 45 cents. Head over to www.yourbeardsuperstore.com and use code GHOST at checkout to receive $5 off your order. Both Nick and Josh use these products daily, and our beards look and feel great and smell great too. Head over to yourbeardsuperstore.com and use code GHOST for your discount on these magnanimous products. You won't be disappointed. If you have a white or silver beard, they even have specialized products that will help keep the coloring of your beard. Use code GHOST at yourbeardsuperstore.com. This ad is Zeus approved.
All right, folks, we are back. Thanks again for listening to our sponsors, Magnanimous Beard Products. They're going to continue to be a sponsor for us. So if you don't have a beard or you're female, my apologies, but buy that shit for your dude. It's great stuff. Anyway, back to the
Smells nice,
SLS
too.
stuff. What's that?
Smells nice too. That's one of the things that my girlfriend loves the most about like me using the oils and the beard stuff is it smells great.
Yeah.
So however it is not edible. So if you
Actually,
just put
it
it
is.
on, well, it doesn't taste great.
But it is edible because it is all natural products. And
True.
if you follow Magnanimous Beard on any of their socials, mainly Facebook and Instagram, the owner, Ronnie, actually dares other beard companies that make products like his to take a shot of their product. Because he does it
Listens.
right there.
That is a
on the video.
brave man. I cannot
Is-
imagine the consistency of the oil.
Well, I don't know
Dear
what
God.
exactly he's drinking. It might be the oil.
It's gotta be. I can't imagine any of his other products that you could drink.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably
It's
the
gotta
oil.
be the oil.
Because all of his products are all natural. So that's the shtick, basically. The hook is that it's all natural products. And yeah, he does take a shot and dares other beard oil companies to do the same. And the funny thing is, he did another video. I found this one to be hysterical. Not that we're going to continue promoting Magnanimous Beard Products, but they are a sponsor. We should talk about them every now and again. But he actually showed all the CEOs of these beard oil companies. Not one of them has a beard. And his is magnanimous. Like, it's giant. Like, I've met Ronnie. Like, this beard is monstrous and well taken care of. All right, back to the SLS camera. So we've talked about how to debunk a lot of the BS from all of these social media videos that are being shown, and how to review it. And now I think it's time to get into some of the crazy evidence that I've seen over the past. I think I've had this thing for about 3 years.
Okay.
I guess first things first of why I even got the SLS camera, because people were asking me for it, but one of my guests brought their Kinect 360 setup with them on the
wow.
tour, and I do allow people to bring their own gear. So if you're coming to see me and you're wondering about bringing your own, by all means, bring it. Like, it's your night. I do this shit every day. So somebody brought one, and it was it was a dud all night long, and he had never used it before. He didn't really know what he was doing with it, but all of a sudden, at
His
the
arms
last
hurt?
stop, yeah, his arms hurt for sure. Yeah, that thing's heavy as shit. I mean, this is a 2.5-hour investigation. Like, I know that
Woo.
dude's arms were hurting. Anyway, so all of a
Parafit.
sudden, you needed that yourself fitness game from Xbox. Anyway, so I'm telling the last story, and all of a sudden, he gets a figure standing behind me, and I'm actually covering him up.
Hmm.
And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I mean, the one I had, like, I never got it to work. So I never really seen one like up close and, the operations and whatnot. This thing, I literally was able to walk around it.
Oh, wow. Did it
So
block out like the lower half
it
as you walked
did.
around in front?
So, I mean, we knew exactly where it was. Obviously, we could see it in the camera. He kept the camera still. He would move it like side to side every once in a while just to verify. And it was almost
Mhm.
that full 3D effect, like if it was a
Oh,
physical
wow.
object sitting there. At one point, because this was all new to me, I said, "Hey, Henry, if this is you that we can see on this screen right here on this flat box, can you raise your right hand?" It was instant. So I said, okay, lower your right hand and raise your left. Instant.
Wow.
Everybody went ape shit, dude. Like, this thing was crazy. Hang on. This goes on for 8 minutes. Eight,
Wow.
8 minutes. Hang on. Let me tell you why and how this thing disappeared. I have a whole team of men, except for one woman, somebody's wife. It may have even been the guy with the SLS camera. She decides she's going to walk up to this anomalous figure and hold
Mhm.
out her hand for him to shake so we can get the movement. The
Mhm.
minute she put her hand out, poof, gone.
Wow.
So let me explain why that happened. We're talking about somebody from the 1860s, in a
Mhm.
time where women were not looked at as equal to men. So for a woman to offer her hand to be shaken that way was probably disrespectful.
Hmm. Interesting. What would she have technically should have done?
Nothing.
So there's no right interaction, like, the kiss the hand, like old
No.
school, like should she have like done the
Curtsied.
curtsy or
I honestly, if I would have known that was going to happen before, I mean, we were still so amazed at the interaction we were getting.
yeah.
Oh, and let me put a little laughter on top of this. The gentleman was so new to his own device, he didn't know how to record.
Oh no.
Hang on. So I was using the Phasm Cam setup at that point, and the person using the Phasm Cam that night was,
Was
what would
filming
you
it?
say? Well, yeah, they were filming it, but over his shoulder, but they were way shorter than the person using the SLS cam. So they're literally like
Oh.
this. I mean, we have the footage, it's on a full spectrum cam. But again, 8 minutes worth of full interactions of me being able to walk around him, getting the left and right hands to move, like 8 freaking minutes. So I was sold that this is a great possibility that we could get more interactions. Did all my research. Months later, buy the iPad, blah, blah, blah. You get the story that we told in the first half of the show. So here's what we've caught so far. And that's from the iPad, not the Kinect
Mhm.
version. And I used to bring it out with every investigation. Whenever I get anything new, I bring it out for like 7 to 10 investigations so I could see how it interacts with different locations, different types of personalities of the people using it, so forth and so on. So we're using it a lot. And do you know what it's like to be touched by a ghost? What that's supposed to feel like?
Oddly enough, I've never been touched by a ghost. I have seen full bodied apparitions.
Okay.
I have had one walking alongside me and thought it was a person as part of my team and
Okay.
realized it was not. But I've never been physically like touched, scratched, had anything interact with me personally in that manner. I do know that other people consider it to be like cold or tingly or feel kind of like the pins and needles type of sensation.
So on other accounts, the pins and needles is usually the spot on type of descriptor for this, but spider webs is another. Like
Yeah.
you just walk through a
Mhm.
spider web. Same location, probably a year later. It's hot outside. I'm wearing a t-shirt, so my arms are exposed. And I just told my folks as soon as we walked into that park, because it's a pretty large park, that I kept feeling like I had a spider web on me, and I kept rubbing my arm, and then it would go to the other arm, and then it was on my neck, and it was just all over the place. So I was kind of like, I don't know what's going on. I can't find it. Like, how you pull, like you're trying to find the
Yeah.
spider web. Nothing on me. And then all of a sudden, somebody says, "There's somebody in the SLS camera touching you." And I said, "Is it my left like forearm right now?" And they said, "Yeah."
Hmm.
So we tested it. They went away. It was only like maybe 20 seconds, which is still a lot of time in the paranormal
Yeah.
world, as
Oh,
far
yeah.
as footage goes. So it went away. Wasn't feeling anything. Once that spirit thought like, "Oh my, they're all into me," kind of thing, they kind of hightailed it. So I told the story, and then they were to explore that space at the times before we did the Estes method there, and all of a sudden I got it again on my neck. Lo and behold, somebody had their arm outstretched, touching my neck on the SLS
Hmm.
camera. So we started testing it even further, and I rolled up one pant leg. And I just wanted to see, like, as we walked around, will we get more? I think I had probably 5 to 6 touches that night that I could tell them without knowing what was on the screen, where they were touching.
Wow.
So that was that was a crazy night. And it never stopped. Like I said, 5 to 7, I can't remember it. Like I said, it's been a little while. So another person, this one was an interesting catch because they told me about it. We were investigating the space. It was the same park. And again, all of this at the same park. We'll not get a whole lot out of the other locations, but this one park would give us quite a bit. And it was kind of like what you found with your split second, someone sitting on the ground. But this
Right.
person was sitting against a tree, holding up like their arms like this, like they were reading a book.
Huh.
And then they called him, and then the head turned. So the 3 points, like, because they kind of looked
Oh,
all jumbled,
wow.
turned, and now you have all 3. So that was like a maybe 3 to 5 second type of clip, but it was enough. Like, wow, interaction, like huge interaction with this camera. So those are like my 3 majors, like that I've caught with the Apple version using ladder
Mhm.
technology, part of the evidence that we've caught. Do I have a lot of others where I'm like, I'm not sure, too dark, I can't find what's behind this, or no, it might be a new space, I'm missing something. I'd
Right.
go back, look at other camera pieces. But that's kind of the major stuff that I've picked up. Every once in a while I'll get somebody that is following somebody else. I could see that, and they're walking like their
Mhm.
arms are in different motion from the other person. Because if you move it too quickly, it'll pick up the actual
And
person, but be on a
yeah.
delay. So it'll almost look like there's a person behind them. But when you have both stick figures there, and they're in different stances or poses, rather, because I mean, you have to think
Right.
of this thing as kind of like a drawing. What do they call that thing that artists use?
The mannequin.
Yeah.
And it's like the
So
drawing mannequin.
Right. So you have to think of it in that fashion. So if you have that and there's 2 different poses and there's nothing that could be making that secondary pose, then you have something else. So that's another, one of the 4 out of, 7 that I pick up per year, that I'll get one of those.
Hmm.
So
That's really cool. Now, did you get any tips from the ghost that was feeling you up while you're rolling up your pants for him?
no. But I would also
Ah.
tell you, this also goes in conjunction, and I'm not making light of your joke because it was good. I'll give you the joke, Josh. I got felt up by a ghost. But this
And you
was
got
also
no
the same
tips for
ghost
it.
from the 1860s. Like, these are all from the same guy.
Wow.
So none of the other ghosts from my other locations are hip to this camera. Like, I don't know what it is. It's only this
Which
one
is
location.
That's crazy. I mean, that starts to really kind of start questions of is it because they're so much older that they're able to just build up enough energy to be more perceived by the camera?
Who knows? I've got older ghosts than him that I deal with. Most of them are.
Hmm.
He's actually one of my more recent. You got to remember what side of the country I'm on.
True.
I mean,
Hmm.
there's one ghost, and she was born in 1722. So,
Wow.
but all of those pieces that I just mentioned also correlated with things that were happening with other devices, which is what I think made it so exciting. And it wasn't like it said touch leg, like the bullshit they would show you from an obelisk on a ghost hunter show.
Yeah.
It was like his name and then his birth year. You know what I mean? Things were showing up on different devices, or we get a huge EMF spike around that location. Those are the types of things that I get excited about, especially if I can correlate it with other pieces that are going on with other devices. I don't use it ever as a standalone piece of equipment. Again, it can be an exciting tool, just not always. I would say that 95% of the time that I use it, nothing will be caught. Do I still spot check it?
Yeah.
I do. It's part of my promise to my guests. I don't go in there with expectations. I want to be surprised just as much as the user was when they thought they saw a 50-foot, type of entity walking towards them like Marshmallow Man. This is another piece of equipment type of episode, and I understand we do a lot of equipment episode, folks, but this is our expertise and where we dive in and things that are possibilities versus some of the BS that you're watching through all of your social media and all of your TV shows.
True.
So
I mean, this is how we help people debunk while watching TV.
yeah,
This is where we get to help your everyday listener, your everyday person that's watching all these shows start to pick through and be like, oh, well, this guy is just screwing around. Like, this isn't legitimate, and help them weed through what is actually worth their time.
right. And again, I mean, I'm an advocate for the technology as long as it's set up properly, using the right pieces of hardware instead of. I mean, you said you use it on Android. I believe Android has something that is similar to LiDAR technology. I don't know the name of the technology, but when I spoke with GhostTube, the company, they definitely advised me to pick up an Apple product. As long as it had the LiDAR technology, they said that's when it's at its optimum performance, I think was the exact phrase that I got from them. So,
If I have to get an iPad now.
and an iPhone, and you can pick those up pretty cheap from eBay, especially one from 2020. As long as it has that,
True.
4 camera. The screen's going to be small as shit if you're going to use a phone.
Yeah.
But that's why we decided with this one particularly, not knowing how much I was going to use it. That's why I went with the iPad instead of an iPhone, because I hand out enough phones,
Yeah.
with the different apps that I use and the FLIR camera and stuff like that needs a screen. This one, the way I have it set up, it's exciting when I bring it out. It is a real-time moment because of the iPad and not just a phone screen. So I do take note, like if somebody saw something in real time, I definitely take note of it when I'm taking all my notes to check this location SLS, so that way I can either prove or debunk it. And if I see something that's that possibility, my guests actually get the screenshot, the original, and then there's a slide bar where it brightens it up with the filter so they could see what I see. So even their report is interactive. And I do that with the infrared camera as well. So if it's a little too dark in there, I'll brighten it up if I thought I saw something because, I'm more of an expert than they are. And then I'll brighten it up further and give them the original screenshot plus the brightened version of it so they can interact with it as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So they seem to enjoy it. But again, they're rare. So if you do find a screenshot from me from any of the 3 cameras that we use, know that it's legit because most of the time I'm going to debunk a lot of shit.
Oh, I mean, that's all really, really cool. It's really insightful. And I mean, I learned a few things here today too. So, I mean, it's great to keep going back and forth with these different pieces of equipment. And, like we said, just kind of break them down, make sure we know what we're talking about, and be able to give other people that ability to now have this information. I mean, because I'm sure we're drawing some newer ghost hunters that need the information that could really use the breakdown.
And I completely agree with you, dude. Like, I'm always learning things about these pieces of equipment. I think the advantage that I have is that I get to use this equipment hundreds of times. Like, most ghost hunters don't always get to use their equipment as often or as much as I do. And that's just because of, thankful for the tours. That's my bread and butter, that I get to use this shit and pick and choose whatever I want to use for that night based off of how many guests that I'm going to have and what type of guests I'm getting. So if somebody tells me that they're bringing their 8-year-old son and all of his friends, I'm going to leave a few of the more higher tech stuff behind. Um, so I can always accommodate to things that way. But yeah, I think you're
Right.
absolutely, us talking about it back and forth, because obviously you use this, and I commend you for taking that sensitivity, way, way down. I'm going to have to try that on a few locations just for myself, just to see how it reacts with the spaces that I, commonly visit. But again, that's something that I didn't think of, to take it down that far. I think we've got plenty for our listeners to think about and to test out with their own phones. But again, you can always leave comments in the show notes, or of course, you can find us on our social media platforms. I am under Stories in the Cemetery on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And who knows, maybe by this time I got the YouTube channel up and running for regular viewers. Josh, where can everybody find you? And we'll call it a day.
You can find Tales from a Ghost Hunter. Tales from a Ghost Hunter. I'm mixing us up.
Mixing the two.
Yeah.
I do the same thing all the damn time. And my story's in a cemetery, and he's Tales from the
Stories.
Ghost Hunter. No,
Yeah.
it's stories in the cemetery. Yeah, I do it all the time.
Yeah. But you can find Tales from a Ghost Hunter on you can find the book on Amazon. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I do have a YouTube up and running. I do some videos there. A little behind on some of it, but I will be getting more content up by the time the listeners hear it now. Yeah, so just pretty much all
You're
that stuff.
forgetting
And
your
my
own
podcast.
damn podcast, dude.
Yeah, and my podcast.
And his podcast. Folks, there's some really good stuff that Josh is putting out there. And of course, some of this that you might be hearing from his podcast might be reposted and so forth and so on. And who knows, maybe I'll repost some of like Josh's like crazy black-eyed kids and Krampus episodes and all the shit that he talks about over there, over here, just so you can get a sample of it and kind of take it from there. Josh, we have a long list of topics we're going to be talking about in the future. We got some guests coming on. I've reached out to some of the almanac writers, so that'll be exciting to hear from Kat or Carl to get their perspective on their part of the field, because they're both do something different than what we do, but they're both beneficial. So that'll be cool, especially to talk with Kat. I don't know that I've had a full blown conversation with Kat. It's always been via email or in TikTok responses. So that should be a
Correct.
pretty fun conversation with her. Like, she's got a lot of energy. I can't wait to chat with her. We got a lot of really cool equipment pieces coming up and different methods. The God's helmet, Michael Faraday. Like we've got some cool shit coming, and they're mostly your ideas. I'm just gonna put credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I watch a lot of paranormal shows. I'll watch the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just because I want to see what's going on. I want to see what people are doing. I want to see what people are interacting with and see if there's anything that's actually of interest. So, I mean, and some of these concepts came up and I was like, I need to look more into this. And I research and I look into it. It's just like the Philip project that they did in 1972 in Canada. Like, that's something fascinating. And, there's examples of pretty much the same concept coming about into newer, modern day stuff, which is actually one of the episodes I'm going to be posting for my podcast. So near the end of season 1 at mine, I'm going to be talking about one of the concepts that kind of came later after that project. It's very similar. So
nice. And I know nothing about what the hell you're saying, so that's even better. So that gives me more research. And folks, if there's a topic that we discuss that's new for Stories in a Cemetery that I haven't covered in a blog post, I will definitely make sure that there is a blog post separated for that. So again, always check the show notes of the show. It gives you the references that we had to use. Not to mention, if there's a blog post, there'll be a direct link for that, but you can always go to storiesinacemetery.com and go to either the paranormal studies or the paranormal 101 tabs to be able to find those. And on that note, Josh, this has been a weird episode because I've talked about the SLS before, but I don't think I've ever told people the stories of what I've caught with this thing before, at least not in the fashion that we just had this conversation. Folks, we will talk to you again in 2 weeks. In the meantime, go back and check out the Tales from a Ghost Hunter podcast.
Yeah, and we will see you guys on the next story.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Do you want to go ghost hunting with your host, Josh Amen? Well, guess what? You can. Josh from Amen Paranormal Research is hosting a paranormal scavenger hunt in Pasadena, California, and you can win some great prizes. Small, intimate groups of 6 as you learn how to identify real paranormal activity while using Josh's high-caliber equipment. These events are limited, and there are only 6 tickets available for each event, so head over to amenparanormalresearch.com to purchase your tickets, and we'll see you on the paranormal scavenger hunt. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Stories in the Cemetery podcast. You can follow your host, Nicholas McGurr, on most social media platforms under the name Stories in the Cemetery. If you'd like to follow co-host Joshua Amen, you'll find him under the name Amen Paranormal Research. Be sure to check out the show notes for any links to specific articles written by your hosts and all the references used to create this episode. Happy hunting! We'll see you on the next episode of the Stories in the Cemetery podcast.